Cleats, the podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Sneakers and Cleats. You're not hearing it?
No. Did we have music?
I don't know. There's
I hear
something
you.
playing.
I hear you.
Okay, well,
That's all I need to hear.
I don't know. I'm just kind of pushing sliders over here, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, DJ is not my calling. Welcome into another episode of Sneakers and Cleats. I'm doing a lot of guest hosting this week.
Yeah, how'd that go this
how'd
morning,
it go
Zach?
in the morning?
2 o'clock came quick. I will tell you that.
I'm sure you were amazing.
Well, I wouldn't use that term, but we got through it, and the lights are still on here. So
Okay.
there will be another morning show tomorrow. So
I did mornings from 91 to 93, 2.5 years, and it aged me 10.
yes,
It's brutal.
yeah. I credit to everyone: Ashley, Brad, David Chancellor, Maritza, all those fine folks that get up that early in the morning.
Yep.
Salute. Here we are, another episode of Sneakers and Cleats. Those two Chuck Miketinac, Don Harris, Zach Hedrick filling in today. Episode 215 by my last counting here. A friendly reminder to all of those out there listening and watching right now, subscribe to the News 4 San Antonio and Fox San Antonio YouTube channels. We are live streaming right now. And then also, if you're not catching us live, you're probably listening to the audio version, and you can get your audio experience of Sneakers and Cleats wherever you get your favorite podcasts downloaded to your app or phones or whatever else is going on. So
Rate, review, wherever you get
all
your
of that
podcast,
stuff, yeah.
5-star rating.
yes,
et cetera,
comment
et
down
cetera.
below. Smash the like button, subscribe,
bell.
all that stuff. All that.
215 in honor of Matt Roy, who's been asking us the area codes.
Oh, is that what
You
y'all
know
are
what
doing?
215 is, Chuck?
I do not.
What is
Yeah,
I have
called there-
no idea.
Called there many times.
215.
Philadelphia, I believe.
All
Check
right.
me, Bob.
We'll check on the area code. But something else that we also a big day for Spurs fans everywhere. Happy birthday, Manu Ginobili.
Happy birthday, Manu Ginobili and Chuck Miketinac.
It is
Belated.
Saturday.
belated on Saturday.
Yes.
Happy birthday to Chuck.
Thank you.
Do anything
Wait,
fun
Chuck's
this weekend?
birthday's today?
It was
No,
on Saturday.
Saturday.
Oh.
On Saturday.
Thank
Do
you all.
anything fun for the birthday?
I did. We had a nice little brunch downtown, the entire family, which was nice.
Did the kids pick up the tab?
They did. Actually, my wife
nice.
picked up the tab.
Nice.
I think that's the reason why the kids showed up.
Always in for a free meal, right?
100%. Who
So-
doesn't like those?
No, always.
Brunch is always good, too.
So today, Manu Ginobili's, guys, just real quickly, a favorite Manu memory? I mean, aside from the bat or something like that, but
How
is there
old is Manu? 42?
48? I think I saw on a tweet
48?
today.
Gosh, we're getting old. 48.
I'm gonna double check on that too.
He's
Yeah, I
48.
think it is
He is 48.
48.
Thank you, Bob.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah, for me, it's hard to forget the run he had in 05. I mean, that was like so many big shots in those games here in San Antonio. I mean, so many memories with that guy and his will to win and bringing others in the will to win train. Yeah, a lot of memories. And him losing a lower portion of his anatomy, too, and how he walked off the court. Yeah, that's
When soccer players
it still doesn't
flop
make any
yeah,
sense.
He got
Yeah.
to his feet. Got to
And
his
walked
feet
off the court.
and walked to this court. And still, second greatest soundbite I've ever gotten in an interview. The first was with Don King, but the second was Manu. And I said, Manu, over here we have this saying, I'd give my left. And he said, I gave my right one for the Spurs.
That is a pretty spectacular bite. Speaking of the Spurs, we have lots to discuss. Some big things going down here in San Antonio since this podcast last hit the airwaves. We'll touch on it because it's not really anything new. It's just now we have kind of some hard numbers to go by, I guess, a little bit concerning Project Marvel. So we'll get into that a little bit. The organization kind of putting their money where its mouth is after Peter J. Holt sent a letter to city leaders late last week. And then we'll take a quick glance at the preseason schedule for the Silver and Black. That also getting released today. Not going to dive too much into it because it's preseason. But speaking of preseason, we're going to get the latest on Cowboys training camp out in Oxnard. Not too much going on in terms of contracts, at least the one fans are waiting for.
Well said.
But
yeah.
it's still going on. Injuries kind of starting to take a little bit of a toll. Some big names, or at least depth guys, at least starting to get nicked up a little bit. So we'll kind of see what happens there. And then also in the spirit of football season, UTSA fall camp starting up later this week. We'll kind of check in with Jeff Traylor and the UTSA Roadrunners before we get out of here. So, guys, first topic: Spurs. Deciding to commit a big number. I thought of Dr. Evil immediately. $1 billion. $1 billion to a Spurs arena for Project Marvel. Everybody's kind of been wondering, okay, how much financial commitment is each kind of player in this? The players being the Spurs, city, and the county. Well, the Spurs finally plunked down. Here's our figure in a letter that was sent by Peter J. Holt. Went out to Eric Walsh and all the city council leaders. This is really kind of nothing new because, Don, you had that sit down with Peter J. Holt about a month ago or a few weeks ago now, and you asked him kind of straight out just what the financial commitment would be, and this is what Peter J. Holt had to say. Oh, well, we don't have sound, so we're going to keep rolling, but you asked him, hey, the Spurs are going to pony up some cash, right? And
Yeah.
he said, yeah.
He said at the time, hundreds of millions of dollars. It was, it was unclear if that's going to be 300 million or 500 million. I think what they came up with was 500 for the arena itself and another 500 for
Surrounding
the
areas.
development around
Yeah.
it, which will fund the arena through the PFZ, the private finance zone, which is complicated, but it's the state program that allows Dallas, Houston, Austin, and San Antonio to use a 3-mile radius around a professional sports facility and or a convention center, but only for those purposes, to generate revenue over a long period of time, 30 years, whatever, to pay off debt on said arena. It's not, you cannot use that money for police, fire, floodplains, streets, any of that. It's a state deal. And you build it up, you put in apartment complexes, restaurants, shopping centers, all of that kind of stuff around that 3-mile radius. And whatever it generates, the tax money then goes to help pay off the arena. So they're going to build it with their partners, their development partners. So that's another 500. But for the construction of the actual arena, 500 million plus all cost overruns. And I think that was significant because they don't know really what this thing's going to cost you.
Right. Yeah. Project Marvel, all told, they're expecting it to be somewhere in the $3-4 billion range. $1 billion, it gets you a quarter of the way there. Chuck, I know there's still a lot of
No. That's another misnomer. This is 1.2 to 1.5. That's it. The rest of the $4 billion, the hotels, the convention center, the Alamo Dome, all that is something completely separate that the Spurs were never going to chip in for in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're paying, they're willing to pay a third, basically. If it's 1.5, they're willing to pay 500 plus another 500 to help to generate the revenue.
Yeah, and they will, the way I understand it, they will run this too. They will be in charge of running the operation. So, you can look at it and say they've moved closer with the $1 billion ante because I think that's more than we were hearing on the way up to what was said the other day at City Hall. So, but you're still $300 to $500 million short of where you need to be. And I don't think anything's changed since we started this conversation back in November. There's going to be 2 asks, and what that exactly looks like, we still really don't know because we still haven't reached that point. But you would imagine, because they want to get this on the ballot in November, that things are going to really escalate now during the month of August, and we're going to get more and more details as to exactly what people will be asked to vote for. And the way I understand it, too, is even on the ballot, as we sit here right now, this will not say on the ballot that this is a Spurs-funded arena.
Yeah.
So it's going to say taxes and something else. So, again, there's
Downtown entertainment complex or
it's
something.
tax, and actually I have it right here. If you want me.
There's a lot of fine print still to be hammered out, and Chuck,
Right,
kind of to your
yeah.
point, that's what's going to be worked on here over the next coming weeks. I think from what I was told today by one of our executive producers, the city meets again later this week to have more meetings, but then there's some kind of deadline here in the month of August, right?
Well, there's
where
the August 8th
these term
deadline
sheets,
from the county. And Sakai was waiting on the city because now that he's got the Spurs number, he was waiting on the city to say, okay, if they're going to put in the other 500, then I'm going to be responsible for 241 or 3. I think they can go to 311 on that visitor tax. And he was like, then I'll just put it on the ballot. Well, then Gina the mayor comes out last week and says, the county needs to do what the county needs to do, regardless of what we're going to do. If they want to go ahead and put it on their ballot, put it on their ballot by August 8th. I think he's going to do that. And then they're not going to meet until the 21st of August, I think is when they're going to finally decide as a council and vote on this. In the meantime, as we do all the time, all 10 council people have to use up
Give their
30
final
minutes of their
points, yeah.
time and making all that stuff. Look, it's going to be on the ballot. It's going to be on the ballot in November, and the voters will decide. Bottom line. And that's the way it should be. The voters should decide. But all of this posturing and negotiating brings up a lot of contentious points where it's an interesting argument about public funding for sports arenas compared to what other people are doing.
So lots of details still to be hammered out. Long way to go before we start seeing big changes happening, I guess, downtown. But where do you think now that do things get maybe accelerated now that, okay, the Spurs have put forth the amount that they're willing to kind of pony up?
I think it helps some of the council members who had serious questions. Others aren't going to move. I think it's going to be a, whatever it is, 7-3, 8-2 vote when it comes down to it. I think you'll have the same holdouts you always have. The people that would vote against Sunshine or their mother. But they vote against everything. But it will be on the ballot, I think, in November.
Chuck?
Yeah, I think that's the goal, right? How it's going to play out, I have no clue because, you hear rumblings that Mayor Jones isn't necessarily on board with this. It's a big ask. And it's a big investment, right? And so do you do this for a sports entity? Do you risk pissing off the sports entity if you don't give them what they want? These are all things that are done at a level that are kind of outside my purview. So I know there's a number of people on the city council that aren't necessarily for that, but again, they may be willing to say, hey, look, let's just turn it over to the voters and see what they think at the end of this. But
isn't it the bottom line that if they say no, if the voters say no, does that mean the Spurs leave?
I've knocked this around a little bit, and I think I don't think it's like the death knell of this thing this time. In other words, so let's just say, and I don't know anything. This is just Chuck and I were talking about this the other day. If you're told no and you're the Spurs, then do you play the Austin card or the Seattle Vegas card, whatever it is? And does that move them? And then this gets done in a year from now or 2 years from now. Let's remember, this was not the Spurs' idea. Ron Nierenberg and Eric Walsh came to the Spurs 2 years ago and said, this is our vision. Will you participate? Do you guys want to be a part of it? And so I think if you're the Spurs, I read Peter's letter as being a little exasperated with the fact that, okay, you guys came to us. We're going to play. We told you we play. We're going to give our $1 billion. But now Ron's out of office. You got a new mayor who comes in and may not have the same vision. And now you're breaking our, what, in these council meetings where we're getting our butts kicked by the public comments of every Tom, Dick, and Harry that has an HOA that wants to complain about tax money for public venues. Look, you either want us or you don't. You want to do this or you don't. But we didn't come asking for this. You guys approached us, And now we're the ones having to sell it to the public.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see it quite that way. I mean, Peter J. Holt has been on the record saying we have to have certain things in order to operate in this day and age in the NBA, right? So this new venue with the arena and the stuff around it will help facilitate what they need in order to compete with the bigger market teams. So the way I understand it is, I heard this from a pretty substantial source, somebody that's in the know, that they will weigh their options if this doesn't go through.
For sure.
So they have to. I mean, they've already said on the record what they need to compete. So what does that look like? I don't know. Does it mean we're going to move and we're going to do all that? I mean, that's probably a conversation that's, let's let a few things play out before we start going down that road, because I don't think fear-mongering or anything is going to solve any problems.
And I don't think they want to play that card.
No, I don't think so either. I think they would have at this point. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, but when you have council people that are up there, Jalen McKee Rodriguez saying he kind of threw that all out there the other day, and he said, look, I tempt the Spurs to see if they can get a better deal somewhere else. And I mean, I think some of what he says is it's true. I mean, this is a pretty damn good deal as we sit here right now, if it goes through, where, the Spurs are putting up essentially $1 billion. And if the whole thing costs $4 billion plus, to when you're talking about the entirety of the project, which is being driven by the Spurs,
that's not
ultimately,
true. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. The entirety of the project is not a Spurs vision. It's not being driven by the Spurs. The Spurs are interested in their arena, $1.5 billion. That's what they care about. Ron Nierenberg and Eric Walsh came to them about Project Marvel and being a part of
with the dome
scheme.
and Freeman and all the other upgrades. Spurs are the driving force behind this, though. This doesn't happen without the Spurs' participation in all of this.
They have to participate, but from their perspective, we're putting up $1 billion of a $1.5 billion project. Really, they'll admit to you that they're putting up $500 million. They see it as, we're putting in 5, the county put in 5, the city put in 5. And the city doesn't have to put in the 5. It comes from the state generating the PFZ.
That's correct.
But they do have to put in $250 in infrastructure.
That's nice that you have that funding available if you're going to pull off a project of this magnitude. Yeah. But there's the other side of it is, what about the CPS plant that's got to be moved or will be moved if this thing goes through?
There's going to be
the infrastructure around it. I mean, all that's going to cost money. So, again, when a city councilman says what he says, there are others that feel the way that he does. So there's a lot to sort through between now and when this stuff gets put on the ballot, and we'll see what happens over the next month.
Yeah.
So you have it right there. Lots to discuss, lots to explore over here the next few weeks and months. So a long way to go. Bob, do we got anything on this topic before we kind of keep moving on a little bit?
Tom Guerrero in the house.
Shout out Tom G.
Tom.
First of all, Luis, we're getting some comments that the audio is a little shaky, a little laggy. I don't know if there's anything you can do about that at this point, but I just wanted you to know.
It's Zach.
I know.
But, we blame Zach for the problems.
Yes. Thank you, Zach.
Tom does agree, though, that the voters should be the one who decide this.
Yeah.
People should decide it. And Trevor says, regardless if it's for a good reason or not, if the Spurs were to ultimately leave San Antonio, history will not be kind to the mayor and city council.
And that's what I think is ultimately going to be in their back of their minds, right? And as a city, do you want Jalen McKee Rodriguez making the decisions for, the rest of the citizens? That's why negotiate up to the point that you feel comfortable with putting it on the ballot. Let the voters decide. If they say no, you can campaign against it all you want once it gets on the ballot. And you'll have people campaigning for it. You'll have people campaigning against it. And then let the voters decide.
So it'll be a topic that will be a discussion point for the next few months here as we get closer and closer into the fall. Real quickly before moving on from the Spurs, their preseason schedule coming out today. Hard to believe, a little more than a month from now, we're going to be back in basketball season.
We're not even playing football yet.
I know. We're getting back, ramping up for basketball season again. But 5 games for the Spurs. to check them out, get a new look at Dylan Harper, Wemby, and all the guys back out there on the floor. I'm going to try my best at this, but they're opening up with the Guangzhou Luang Lions from China.
That was perfect.
How about that?
Please coach me on that for the 5 o'clock show today.
We'll try. Well, I'm sure somebody will critique me and say, that wasn't quite right. But that is on Monday, October 6th, first of 3 home games for the Spurs this preseason. They also have home dates against the Utah Jazz and Indiana Pacers. They're also going on the road for Miami and also at Indiana.
Indiana Pacers, much easier to say.
Yes, without Tyrese Halliburton, unfortunately.
Zach, let me and Chuck, the old guys here, teach you a little lesson.
Preseason
At
doesn't
5
matter.
o'clock, don't attempt what?
The Guangzhou Luang Lions.
Yeah, what you say is, tell them, Chuck, the Spurs are going to play a team from the Chinese league named the Lions.
Yep.
That's what we do.
Does that team even make the graphic? Probably not.
I don't know.
We'll see. All right. Moving on to the Cowboys training camp. Brian Schottenheimer just speaking as we were coming onto the air here. They're probably rolling right into practice. First padded practice yesterday, and they added another guy to the extension list. Jake Ferguson getting paid up. Pretty good player, decent tight end. I mean, he had a down year last year, but he's looking to turn things around, of course. And the front office had to hearing this, that, hey, I didn't want to go anywhere else. He didn't really kind of explore any other options. He wanted to stay right there. So that's got to be a good, bargaining chip for the front office when they start going for these other guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad. I hope we get to see more of stuff like this so the Cowboys are probably, based on what Jake Ferguson did last year, taking a little bit of a risk when you're talking about wrapping up $30 million guaranteed dollars to Jake Ferguson. It's a little bit of a club-friendly deal in a lot of respects, but Jake Ferguson, God bless him, lives in the real world. He's coming off a year where he had a jacked up knee for the first half of the season. Then he had a dome ding for 2 games last year. And by his standards, I think he's probably going to have a better year this year if he stays healthy. But that's always the rub in all this, right? You have no idea if you're going to stay healthy. You're one hit away from your career ending. Good for Jake Ferguson and good for the Cowboys to reaching some sort of agreement, probably much to the chagrin of the quote-unquote Players Association that frowns on these sweetheart deals. It's crazy what the Players Association has evolved into, where they roughly are benefiting 5 or 6% of the players, and then the rest of these guys got to figure out what to do on their own, and then they get blowback from these associations when they sign these deals early or leave money on the table, so to speak. I mean, it's just nonsense.
Let me ask you this. He got what was called the 7th highest paid tight end in the league money. Do we think Jake Ferguson's the 7th in the NFL? Better or worse?
Well, I mean, at his peak,
When he's playing well?
I mean, he'll be even better this year with another dude out there. I mean, off the top of my head, I would say maybe. I mean, when you think of Kelsey and you think of the guy in San Francisco and who else do you think
There's a guy in Buffalo, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember, but Ferguson, when healthy,
Guy in
pretty
top
athletic
10?
guy.
So I thought 7th. That's about right.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a guy, too, that was a 4th-round pick. I mean, 4th-round guys don't usually get this kind of guaranteed money. So good on Jake Ferguson.
Yeah.
And good on the Cowboys for kind of getting out in front of that. And let's see if there are other guys on this roster that kind of follow suit.
It seemed like it's a pretty fair deal for both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few more guys in contract years that the Cowboys may be targeting. We'll get to those guys in a second. But first, of course, everybody wondering what is happening with Micah Parsons' deal. Where does that stand? Well, Jerry Jones, speaking to one of our affiliates yesterday, he was asked, of course, where things stand on the Micah Parsons contract, and here's what he had to say.
Obviously, Micah, first of all, does want to get paid. He's getting paid. He gets about 20-something million right now. And that's pretty easy, 20 million, standing there watching practice out there at the same time we're going on. But seriously, I don't have a lot to say about it. This is pretty commonplace. You have high-profile players that are under contract that basically want to renegotiate for the future. I get it, and it's just a question of allocation. The process is going along, and Micah's a smart young man. And I can't tell you how smart he is. I think he may be the most intelligent player I've ever negotiated with. And we've had direct negotiations at length. And Micah called me from Saudi Arabia and wanted to come in and get in and come in and talk about and negotiate the contract. And we did. And so we've got some things to work out, but we'll see where it goes.
Well, Jerry taking another shot at Micah there at the beginning, getting $20 million to just stand and watch practice. So the war of words continues.
Oh, I loved the what he told Todd Archer yesterday was he said the fans were screaming, pay Micah, pay Micah. And Archer asked Jerry, did you hear those chants? And Jerry goes, you mean those faint little chants that are nothing? Right. They were nothing like the loud
theater
ones last
continues.
year for CD Lamb. Like Micah, Micah's going to hear that and go, so Jerry's saying the fans like CD more than me.
Yeah. Stephen Jones also chiming in on this dispute as it goes on. He said, quote, we want to pay Micah too. He's got to want to be paid. So it's just both these sides are ready.
Doesn't Jerry realize that year after year, whether it's Dak or whether it's CD, we have these sound bites from him on tape where he explains the salary cap to everybody.
Sure, yeah.
And he says, the more you give to one guy, then you don't have money to give somebody else. He says that all the time. Allocation. And then Micah Parsons, I guarantee you, is going to get $41 million a year when this is all said and done, just like we knew he was once TJ Watt got paid and once these other guys got paid. So what's he waiting on? Maybe I'm not a smart enough business person to know that if you let that money sit in the bank this extra month of August, what it makes in interest. When you're talking about a $30 million signing bonus.
Yeah. He knows how to build the drama so to get more eyeballs, and I think he's accomplishing it.
I think in some regards you're absolutely right. I mean, sadly, because here we are again, right? Superstar players and contracts with the Cowboys, they seem to get dragged out. They seem to be number one on the list of things that create narratives on a certain cable sports network. They'll fill a whole day's worth of programming, maybe a week's worth of programming, maybe a month's worth of programming. So sadly, it is what it is, as they say. As the great Bruce Bowen would say.
This back half of the Stephen Jones quote, is kind of sticking with me because it's calling back for me with something that Micah said last week. Micah hasn't talked since last Tuesday after the first practice. But Stephen Jones saying he's got to want to be paid. Well, Micah, during that scrum after the first practice, he said they have their own timeline of when they want to get things done. At any given time, they can get things done. So I think Jerry kind of talked about it. They talked way back when. They got everything ready to go. And now it's just like, well, it's not the right time yet because they want to build all this stuff up. Chuck, to your point, they want to get all the eyeballs and everybody talking about this situation before finally it's like, all right, enough time has passed. Let's get it done so we can just focus on football.
I think my guess, and I don't know, is that they're at a number and they agree on a number and that they may be a little bit apart on
length,
total guarantees, and if it's 4 or 5.
Yeah. Length of years.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm curious to see, the longer that Mike is out, what does this mean for Sam Williams? What does it mean for Ezeraku? Because those dudes are getting a lot of splash headlines so far during camp. And I wonder if any of that, will be used as leverage at some point. Probably not. That's probably a silly thing for me to say. I mean, Mike is his own dude for sure. But those other guys are fast becoming nice, viable options. And we're not even talking till, Agent Zero comes back. Yeah. Another guy that can get after you pretty damn well.
And that might be late November or something like that when DeMarvion Overshone is looking to return. So question for you guys. Aside from Micah Parsons, there are other players on the Cowboys heading into a contract year. Among them are Tyler Smith, Deron Bland, George Pickens, Brandon Aubrey. So taking Micah off the table, which player should the Cowboys extend next out of that grouping?
Well, I think your priority would be Smith.
I'm 100% with you.
Because kickers are kickers. They're a dime a dozen, although he's really good. Bland, I want to see if he was a one-hit wonder.
Prove it, yeah.
And Pickens, kind of the same thing as far as let him play this year and see how
See
he
what the
does
chemistry's
in that.
like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, you know, and
But
I
I
know
think he's more talented than Smith. It's close, but Smith is a more valuable piece right now.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
'Cause
how did he look with your eyeballs? I mean, I'm curious because when we were there for OTAs and minicamp, you saw a little bit, but not like guys going full speed
I
like
think
that.
I think still, you know, kind of getting used to being on the same page with Dak and kind of understanding the playbook and everything. But yeah, you know, just you kind of see just how it opens things up for other guys because, you know, I'm seeing videos of Jaden Blue and other tight ends, guys like Jonathan Mingo, Jake Ferguson, Brevin Spann-Ford, who are getting opportunities because of these coverages that Pickens and CD are drawing. So that's what they're looking for, right? So it might be
Yeah.
other big years where it's underneath a little bit, and then finally, when they're rolling these coverages to those other players that, you know, are getting open, well, now it's time to take the top off, and here comes Pickens and Lamb.
Yep,
So,
spread them and dead them. We were talking about that yesterday, right? It's gonna make Jake Ferguson better. It's gonna make Blue better. It's gonna make whoever is the bell cow at running back better. Everything is going to be better just by having another playmaker out on the field.
but it's all dependent too on how that offensive line
100%, as
holds
always.
up.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones talked about that yesterday. You know, he's been very critical, I think, of their play last year, and it's like it all hinges on that. If all the Tylers up there and Cooper Beebe can gel together and keep Dak clean, so
Yep, and open up some holes running.
We'll kind
But
of
I
see
tell
how
you this, on tape, from what I see, athletically and size-wise, man, Pickens looks like he's big and long and moves just so smoothly and quickly.
Yeah. He's going to be fun to watch. All right, real quickly before we get out of here, UTSA fall camp opening up. Jeff Traylor will speak with reporters tomorrow, and then the first practice opens up on Wednesday. Of course, expectations high here in San Antonio for the Roadrunners. Picked to finish near the top of the American. They don't really have a pre-poll do away with those. Those are kind of, you know, meaningless anyway. But Coach Traylor, they're returning a lot of experience on offense. They got some questions to answer on defense, but he's looking for some guys to step up during this fall camp. And here's what Coach Traylor had to say at American Conference Media Days.
Pretty much at UTSA, it's championship or bust, and that's a good thing. Our kids feel that. They know that. They understand what it takes to win championships, and we know we didn't do what it took last year. I'm just really trying to get our players to understand it's their team. So I want us to be so comfortable being uncomfortable. I really want them pissed off every day.
Gotta like that, you know, right before camp, huh?
Yeah. I mean, for me, he says all the right things, right?
Oh, yeah. He wins the
He
press
measured what
conference.
his team was last year. He got tough on him towards the end of the year. I don't think he's going to have any problem doing that, as he would say, have a more buttoned up. You know, we're going to have a more serious approach and, you know, maybe a little bit more of a gavel this year than what he coached with last year.
He talks about the pressure from previous teams. You had your buddy Frank Harrison last night that I saw. What is Frank expecting? What are the expectations for this team?
Yeah, I think it's, they're looking at 7, 8, 9 win season, depending on how they do against Colorado State, Army, and Tulane late in the year. And Texas State is going to be, all they can handle at home. But they should roll through the middle part of their conference schedule. They got the important games at home late in
It's a
Army
big
and
boost.
Tulane.
Yeah.
And so the Alamo Dome is going to have to help them there and against Texas State. I think Colorado State's a really interesting game on the road. I think if they can win that, it would be kind of like that first year when they won at Memphis, where it kind of set the tone for the rest of the schedule.
Springboard them.
But I think, what Traylor is saying is, he had Rashad Wisdom and Frank Harris and all these guys for years and years who were leaders, mature veterans. He could have them run the team. He kind of forgot about that last year, and he kind of let the guys run the team, and they didn't run the team.
Mm-hmm.
They ran it into the ground. And so he had to come in and rescue it in this offseason and start treating it more like a high school team again. We're going to have these discipline things. You're late for a meeting, you're punished, and all these kind of things. So I think that's what he's buttoning up.
Yeah, it's going to be weird, too. I mean, he's got all his starters back on offense and none on defense. I mean, wow.
Yeah. A lot of guys
And
in
I
the
heard him
transfer
say
portal.
when he was talking to Matt, he's like, I don't think I've ever had that. I don't know if I've ever heard of something like that, right? Usually it's like you've got 3, 4, 7, 8 coming back, whatever, on each side of the ball. But to have them all on one and none on the other, what is that going to look like early on in the year? I'm curious.
Because when we would read Dave Campbell's magazine preseason about teams, no returning starters, you're like, okay, they're going to be really young. But with the portal, that's not the case because they're all just for-pay mercenaries. And some of these guys come in are fifth-year guys,
Right.
24-year-olds.
But I mean, the point is you're going to have to learn to play together, which is going to be really, when you have that many moving parts, you know, a lot of these guys were maybe not necessarily starters last year, but were in the program, but were elevated because of all the injuries that they had too.
Less than 5 weeks away before kicking off the college season.
Yeah,
Cannot wait.
UIW coming up real quick, like the week before everybody.
Yeah.
Against Nichols, so that's kind of cool too. That we've expanded the football season even a week earlier, which I don't think too many of us are against, quite frankly.
I think we're all talking about Texas State, UTSA, but we forget UIW is coming in the next week. And I'm interested, like, what's the line going to be for UTSA hosting UIW?
Probably lopsided. I mean, it's the body size, right? You go to see UTSA guys and you see the UIW guys, and you got a lot of scat on UIW, but the UTSA guys got scat and they're huge. So, you know, that's a nice, that's cool. I hope they continue to do that because that's only going to help elevate UIW too in a lot of ways.
UIW picked to finish first in the Southland Conference,
Yeah.
by the way, and pretty overwhelmingly so. So Clint Killow keeping that train rolling like it has the past couple of years. So, Bob, got anything else before we are moseying on out of here?
Just a big question for Chuck. What is the greatest Ozzy / Black Sabbath song of all time?
Probably Over the Mountain from the first Ozzy solo record.
Blizzard.
Or was it the second one? Geez, dude, you took me way back on that one, but I don't
Is that
know.
on Diary or Blizzard? I'm not sure.
That's a good question. I think it was the first one, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Both of those two solo albums, the first ones are really, really good. And then it started to kind of
Do you prefer the
Tape off.
Ozzy over Black Sabbath?
100%.
Wow.
Yeah, the Black Sabbath, believe it or not, almost predates me.
You can still listen.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I was a preacher's son. I was not allowed to listen to devil music.
But you do now.
And he's in a black, wearing the black pullover today. So.
How about you, Bob? You got, is it a Black Sabbath or is it an Ozzy song?
It's I love Black Sabbath. I think especially the more and more I listen to the Ozzy stuff, overall Black Sabbath by far so
Really?
much better.
Okay.
I think NIB might be my favorite of all.
Really? Okay, that's a good one. It's done better when it's done live, though, in my humble opinion.
No, it is. Yeah.
Perry Mason, that's a good one too. The Ozzy song, Perry Mason.
I don't know that one.
Check it out. It's nice and catchy.
All right.
I think Zach Wilde was playing guitar on that one.
Well, that'll
But
wrap
don't
it
hold
up.
me to that one either.
That's going to wrap it up for this episode of Sneakers and Cleats. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the News 4 San Antonio and Fox San Antonio YouTube channels. We will catch y'all on the flip side.